Lots of stuff happens in chapter 4, so you'll see me referring to my notes quite a bit, so please bear with me as I go through this. First thing that we notice in chapter 4 is we learn about thought shapes. What are they? What does it mean? What does it mean to David as he's getting a little bit older and his understanding of his world? And Uncle Angus tells him to keep it secret on page 30. What does this mean to you? What does this mean to our characteristics or qualities of the book? And he makes a very important point here. On page 32, he says, this made them a group, made us a group, he says. So what does this mean? Why weren't they a group before? Now that they're a group, what does this mean for the future as well? Something to pay attention to as we go forward. The attack from the fringes is important because David, again, is still fairly young. And the fringes have always been something kind of scary, as I mentioned in chapter 3, more like a boogeyman kind of thing. And he notices this one captured man from the fringes looks almost exactly like his father, except for disproportionately long limbs, arms, and legs. So this is very disturbing for them. He is always expecting them to be very hideous, very scary, and then he looks at him, and it just, except for these long arms, exactly the same. So this is upsetting to David and causes some conflict. And what does this seed germinate into as we go further on down the road? Then we get the idea of how legalistic his father is, as I mentioned, that in chapter 2, what is going on with his father. The Angus Morton, his distant cousin and the father of Rosalind, that he is able to share thought shapes with, is a very controversial moment in the book as we go forward, and we get some ideas about what went on with Joseph Strong before with the cats, and then this idea of giving a sermon about this on page 38, and then the inspector's response to all of these things is very important. So that's the idea of the rules and the way the society needs to function. I told you this was long. I'm going to try and move a little bit more quickly. We see David teaching Sophie. This is an important idea that will come to fruition or come to an important point later on in the story. Get some more ideas of what the land is like, how long they've been there, 300 years, and this idea that since tribulation, it is their goal is to regain all that was lost on page 40, and then this conflict grows up in him where he realizes that Sophie is a deviation, but won't admit that he is a deviation just yet. So we need to pay close attention to the characteristics and qualities. We're getting some in theme, and we're getting some in the characteristics and the qualities.